All right. Welcome to NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the Los Angeles Chargers with Drew Trammel from the Game Winning Drive podcast. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's going good, man. Just watching this Monday Night Football game with you right now. I know your Bears are playing, so I'm rooting on Fields right now. I'm a Fields guy.
Yeah, and I have it in the background here too. And that's what, it's exciting when you have a young quarterback and watching the development. And I mean, for me as a Bears fan, I want to see a lot of positive things. Like, he's got some good runs using his legs, things like that. And let's go ahead and get into the Chargers here. You have an exciting young quarterback who the question is this year, is he having a sophomore slump or what's different this year from last year?
I think the sophomore slump. I mean, we're halfway through the season and he's playing great ball. He was an MVP candidate about right before the Baltimore Ravens game. And then the Ravens game and the New England Patriot game, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, 1 pick six that against to Adrian Phillips last 2 weeks ago against New England that was eventually the game winner for them. And then he came out against Philadelphia yesterday, 350, 3 total touchdowns. He responded. I know it's the Philadelphia Eagles, but their defense it's got to be a little bit of respect there for them. That's a grinding team. Overall, I don't see a sophomore slump as of right now. If anything, I see progression and patience and poise in the pocket that he didn't have last year. I mean, there's a couple of cases where against the Kansas City game, he didn't know he was going to play opening. I mean, the second week of the season last year because the trainer popped Tyrod Taylor with the bad whatever it was, and it's a rookie. Rookie's going to make mistakes last year. He was throwing across his body, and that ended up being a pick, and Kansas City won that game. But since that day, I've watched him progress, and he's killing it this year, man. I'm happy. We're blessed because we went from Drew Brees to Phillip Rivers, and now we have Justin Herbert, and we didn't have to go through the Tyrod Taylor experience last year. We saw one game against Cincinnati. He barely came out of that game when we should have easily won that game last year. And, it's exciting. It's good times right now to be a Charger fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think of, nationally, I heard the sophomore slump thing, and I don't know if part of it was because he just set the bar so high last year. I mean, he was on having some like a historic season last year, right?
Yeah, he definitely broke the record for rookie touchdown passes. I mean, he won Rookie of the Year last year. Probably arguably the greatest rookie season ever for a quarterback. I mean, the sky's the limit for him and his potential. And we're only in his second year. And, and we also got to remember that last year, the offensive line was dead last, and he had no rushing game at all whatsoever. So this year they made improvements, but I know we're going to get to it a bit later on the show. But it's you can still see that it's a lingering issue, and he's PFF rated him number 1 when it comes to pressure throws, because he's getting the most pressure from the right side. As people probably don't know, we signed Brian Beluga from Green Bay a couple 2 years ago. Didn't play that much last year, and this year he hasn't played. And so we got this guy named Storm Johnson, who I think still think he's an ex-porn actor. I mean, it's just Storm Johnson. It really comes.
It sounds like that name. It totally
right?
does. Yeah.
Absolutely terrible play from the right side. Then we lost our right guard, and the right side it's in shambles. It's a shambles, man. And so the Tom Telesco, our GM, made good moves. Gave him a center, Corey Linsley, that you have right there on the line. Best center from PFF last year with the Green Bay. He came over with because of Brian Beluga influence, and then we got Matt Feeler, a former Pittsburgh Steeler, at left guard. And then possibly a candidate for Rookie of the Year this year is Rashawn Slater, who hasn't allowed a sack, I believe, through 9 weeks. So I mean, Left side's good. Right side, not good.
Yeah, I mean, so that's interesting because in offensively, you look at the Chargers and with Austin Eckler, I mean, there's really kind of been that's been a strength of the team, the rushing, right?
Actually, the strength of the team has been the passing. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, Eckler,
Has he been injured, right? Is that, I mean, because
he
he's been,
he's bumped and bruises, a
yeah,
groin, a hip flexor.
yeah.
He just off the bye week he came out saying that we need a number 2 to step up behind him.
Oh, Austin Eckler
Because
was saying that.
yeah, Austin Eckler said that. And
Wow.
so Justin Jackson stepped up a little bit finally 2 weeks ago against New England, but last week it's the same issue, man. It's the same issue. There's no balance with Eckler. It's hard for him to run in between the tackles, and with a, like I said, a busted right side line, you're really just depending on the left side. So that pretty much cancels your A, B, and C gouts on the right side. You got to go to the left, and you got to be creative and improvise. But it helps when you have a quarterback that can run, because Phillip Rivers, and I know that brother ain't getting anywhere with his speed. There's none. So there's play action. Joe Lombardi's first years of the offensive coordinator, play action is huge because if as most people know, Lombardi comes from the Sean Payton tree of coaching. So he's a big play action, intermediate to mediate routes, and it's Austin Eckler fits the bill, but he's not Alvin Kamara. So that's where it hurts a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because, Eckler, he kind of, I don't know, from you covering them, but he almost came out of nowhere a few years ago, and it was just like a fantasy, like huge, huge piece of the fantasy football,
Yeah.
and then now he's kind of become the number one. I mean, he has produced. I really like him. Mainly because he really kind of pushes back on the fantasy football community as well. Like he's aware of that.
Oh yeah. I love Eckler, especially the deal that he signed last year. Team friendly 4-year deal. I mean, we're gonna have him for another 2 years after this, and he's still gonna be 29, 30, and then get him for another 4 years, hopefully. And he's I always tell people he's Darren Sproles, but better.
Right.
He's better. He's just a guy who's very, very smart when it comes to route running, pass blocking, picking up the blitz, and the only issue, like I said, is he's not in between tackler and rusher. So it's just pick your poison. What do you want?
So on that on the roster, you said that number 2 stepping up. Like who is more the between the tackles? I mean, Larry Roundtree had stepped up, but you also have Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly. Like who is he kind of talking to for that number 2 to step up?
He's talking to his guys. It's if it's me personally, they tried the Roundtree experiment beginning of the season. It wasn't working out. He missed pass blocks. He missed up the blitz, pick up the blitz. And if you're looking at Justin Jackson, that's the guy that we all are pegging to be that number 2 dude. That's the spaghetti and meatballs, and that's what you need to in this day and age. You need a guy that can be complimenting to your future back. I don't know if Kelly's the guy. They were high on him last year. I wasn't as a Charger fan, but for me personally, Justin Jackson, he fits the bill for what we need now. But I wouldn't I wouldn't be shocked to see the Chargers keep picking and prying in the offseason for 2022 and possibly through the draft to see if we could find someone that is a bigger back that we could put at the red zone and goal line stances instead of Eckler.
Yeah, I tell you what, running backs are very important in the National Football League, and it's good to have as many as possible. Because you just never know what's going to happen.
Very true. I agree.
Speaking of, another, you said a strength of the team, the passing. And I mean, you've had Keenan Allen, he's been there for a number of years, and he's been injured in the past. And talk about him, and then also Mike Williams. And I have Mike Teal Williams, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. So I have that on my podcast. With Uneducated Takes, we were talking about him, and he said, the tall one. I'm like, all right, we'll just call him, there's so many Mike Williams, I'll just call him the tall one, Mike T.O. Williams. So that's what I call him. But talk a little bit about the wide receiver core there.
It's a great core, man. It's a great core. It's probably one of the best in the NFL. But there's Keenan Allen's Keenan Allen. I think he's the most underrated receiver across the NFL. When it comes to what he brings to the game, I would put him against anybody in the NFL when it comes to feet work and route running, even hands. Even though he's having an off year this year with catching, usually he's dependable when it comes to catching the ball, especially on third down conversions, where he was rated number 1 last year in third down conversions. Mike Williams, hot start this year, as you know.
Yeah,
but he's super inconsistent. He's I have a huge background when it comes to coaching football, being around football in my life, and what we call him down here is called a one-trick pony. And basically, if you guys are familiar with the route tree, he runs a 3, 6, and 9, which is a 3 is a like an in, a 6 is a dig, and the 9 is a go. And that's all he can do, and that's okay. We play to his strengths what we can because of Keenan Allen, but Mike Williams is he's borderline average for where he was drafted, which was first pick, 9th overall or 8th overall that year. Too many injuries. He's playing out this year because he's on a contract year, and trust me, we're happy to have him. But there's a reason why the Chargers and Tom Telesco didn't give him the deal that he wanted, and that's why we took his player option, which is for $15.2 million this year, something like that. And on Twitter, I said that's the worst move of the offseason, and people were getting at me after that hot start. But now super inconsistent. He doesn't show up. He doesn't create separation. And that's an issue that you need to have with your number 2, your Y positional player. And so that is something of a need, because the guys behind him, they're okay. I like Palmer. He's the rookie that we just drafted. Him and I can't think of the guy's name right. Guyton or I can't think of
Jalen Guyton.
Guyton, thank you.
Yep.
Jalen Guyton. Those two are just coming and swapping in and out at the number 3 spot. And then we have, it's just, it could be better. Is it good? Yes, it's good. I put it in the top 10 for receiving corps. But guys like Dallas and Pittsburgh and Minnesota and those teams, Seattle, I like those corps a little bit more than my corps.
So, what do you attribute Mike Williams' hot start for? Was it a lot of, because of Keenan Allen, because of the attention that he gets, or?
So basically what Mike Williams is doing is Joe Lombardi's lining him up at the right spot at the right time. A lot of, if you notice, if you watch our games, it's a lot of play action rollout. Let Mike get the separation that he needs, which is the extended time that you would get in a standard, passing pocket, which is 2 to 3 seconds at most. So him rolling out, you give Mike Williams a little bit more time to speed up and get down certain routes on the hash mark on the right side, or post ins or post outs. He's getting open because he's getting more time. The problem with that now is that we lost our right guard. So now the rollout only can happen a very few times, which we saw yesterday in Philadelphia. He did a rollout. It was one play for 45 yards that Mike Williams caught. And don't get me wrong, Mike Williams has great hands. But that's the issue when you don't have a good or above average offensive line where you can just stay in there and wait for you guys to gather separation. That's why I said he's not like Keenan Allen, where Keenan Allen can gain separation off the line of scrimmage just like that. Mike Williams is just not that guy. He's just not built like that. He's not DeAndre. He's DeAndre Hopkins built, but he don't have DeAndre Hopkins talent. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's interesting in the NFL. I mean, if you have that body type, you're going to at least get a look from teams, and even have some success, but not the long-term success, that DeAndre Hopkins will have.
No.
Speaking about another set of pass catchers, and all, I think 3 of them were pretty productive this past weekend. And talk about the Chargers tight ends. I mean, Jared Cook's kind of been a journeyman. Talk about that group, and maybe even McKitty coming along. Is he going to be a guy to look to, or tell me a little bit about that group, what you're seeing?
Yeah, I wasn't high on the Jared Cook signing, but I understand it because of Lombardi coming from New Orleans. He has those ties with Jared Cook. He's a good plug-in tight end for the replacement of Hunter Henry, who went to New England, which I was okay with for what he signed for. I'm like, no way I want a guy who's only finished one season in the last 4 years to get that kind of deal. But so with Cook, he's good. He's serviceable. He's he's something that can fit the bill for what we need. Pham is the guy that I like a lot. Donald Pham. He is the guy that I pegged to be the starter, but the problem with him is that he's from what I read, his IQ is very low, and reading the playbook of Joe Lombardi is already confusing as it is. Last year when he had a different offensive coordinator, the offense was more simpler under Anthony Lynn. This year with Lombardi and Staley, it's a little bit harder to comprehend.
And he's a small school guy too, it looks like.
Yeah,
Stetson.
He's a small school guy, yeah. But talent. He has talent, great hands, not quick, but fast. If you catch, not fast but quick. If you catch my drift, good feet work. Great blocking tight end, way better than Jared Cook at blocking. But I honestly expected him to have a bigger role heading into the second half. What we saw yesterday was something that I've been pleading Joe Lombardi do, which is run double tight end sets, and we did it 25% yesterday, which is like 85% more than what we've done all year. And I love the double tight end sets because it creates more time for Herbert, and it fills the gap for what you need on the right side, especially after losing our guard. It's creative thinking like that from Lombardi that will help this team get to where it needs to be offensively.
Absolutely. Well, in the one tight end that actually one of my favorite names, it come fantasy football time, or with my draft, I had my first dynasty, and I went ahead and picked McKitty. Is he someone that they're kind of grooming for the future, or is he even worth holding on to in my dynasty league?
At this point, I wouldn't hold on to him in dynasty. I just don't see him becoming the guy. I may be wrong. Sometimes these players figure it out, and I think that's what they're betting on. I don't even think he's on the I don't even think he's on the NFL roster. I think he may be on the practice squad.
Okay.
Something I wouldn't hold on to. I think it was just a project, and it hasn't turned out to be a good project. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think of Chargers tight ends, and Antonio Gates, and that's a huge shoes to live up to, and tight end is so important in the NFL. I mean, you want to have one that can block, but also one that can catch and run and do all those things as well.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Those 3 guys you see, Jared Cook, Pham, and Anderson, those 3 guys, we saw a lot of Anderson yesterday. It's It's something. Tight ends are huge. I mean, that's what I played in high school. Tight ends is your bread and butter. I call it for your quarterback on third downs. It's hard to replace someone like Antonio Gates, who is going to go down as probably one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game. And but we haven't hit our stride on it. That's one position that I feel that we haven't really fixed. I mean, Hunter Henry has been great, but like I said, he was never dependable. So you got to find someone it's hard. It's hard to find someone. I thought Kyle Pitts fit that bill for us, but obviously we had no shot at getting him, and we made the right decision. Rashawn Slater, you got to protect your quarterback before you get another weapon.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
It's worked out for the best, but I think that is another position that Tom Telesco and company will have to look into the offseason, because Jared Cook isn't the answer, obviously. Man, there's no tight ends that's coming in on free agent market. So it's gonna have to be you're gonna have to find that needle in the haystack, like AJ Smith did when he found Antonio Gates, and undrafted basketball player out of college that never played a down of football, and Marty Schottenheimer, and was able to mold him into a Hall of Fame tight end. It was just lightning in a bottle. Can it strike twice? I don't know.
But well, and that's the thing. That's kind of become the standard, Bear. Now everyone's kind of looking to kind of recreate or replicate that.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, on the other side of the ball, I mean, let's talk a little bit about some of the Chargers' key defensive players. I mean, Joey Bosa, Derwin James. Talk about how they have gelled this year, and what you need to see a little bit more from them this year.
Okay, so first and foremost, Joey Bosa, absolute beast, Pro Bowl defensive end. Just signed him and locked him up for the next 5 to 6 years, I believe. So, I mean, it's going to be awesome seeing how he's going to transition these next 5 to 6 years, because he's already an elite pass rusher. He's playing good ball, not great ball this year, good ball. The biggest addition this year compared to the last 2 years was Derwin James. Derwin James is the captain of this defense. He's the difference maker. He is the hybrid. He is the positionless player that could play up at linebacker. You can put him at defensive end. You can put him at corner, safety, quarterback spy. He does everything. He is the only guy that I have seen to this day being able to stop Travis Kelce one-on-one in man coverage. And, that's what we missed the last 2 years. And now that he's back, he's still knocking off that rust. He isn't, what he was his rookie year in 2018. He's nowhere near that, but he will get there soon. And I just had a conversation with one of my friends. I'm like, you're about to see him have a great second half, because he just talked about in the media how he's learning, he's getting his legs, getting his feet back, getting his football feet back, and we're talking about a guy who's only played one game in the last 2 years. I mean, it takes a long time for you to get back into that, every down type of action, to be a Pro Bowl, all pro type of player. And so he's going to get there. And once he starts getting going, the secondary will get going. My biggest issue with my team is middle linebacker, defensive tackle. Lavelle Joseph, great plug-in third down player, but we have him playing every down. It's a little bit unfortunate because we haven't had a great nose tackle since Jamal Williams. And it's been a very long time since Jamal Williams played with us. I'm talking about back before I had my first girlfriend. 2006.
Yeah.
It's it's been a long time, my man, and we need someone that could play that position at a high degree, because if you look back at Tom Telesco's draft picks, Jeremy Tillery was a first-round pick. Absolutely underwhelming as a first-round pick. Probably the worst first round pick in Tom Telesco's era with the Chargers as a GM.
Really?
And now this year, after 3 or 4 years he's been with the Chargers, he's finally playing better. But is it first round talent better? No, it's not. We're 31st in run defense. I look at defensive tackles and defensive line and linebackers as the main issue for that. Also, we can't forget and be remiss that 2 years ago, we traded, I believe it was a first and a second to move up and get middle linebacker Kenneth Murray Jr. And he hasn't lived up to the bar. Last year he was terrible in coverage. This year he's made improvements, but now he's coming back. Finally, this week will be his first week back after his high ankle sprain or something like that. But these picks matter. You have to hit in the draft in order for you to be a relatively good team to want to contend for Super Bowls, especially when your quarterback is in a rookie contract. This is when you want to hit. Just like for you with Justin Fields, you want to hit when Justin Fields in his rookie deal.
There's so many pieces, and part of it's coaching. So talk a little bit about coaching. I mean, we talked about offline about Anthony Lynn and and now the change, that's happened there, and talk about what the difference is from this year from last year.
Are we allowed to be G-rated in here?
Go ahead, do what you need. Yeah.
The only way I can explain this is one way. Anthony Lynn, great man. I met him. Good man. Coaching wise, the biggest vagina I ever met in my life as a Charger fan.
Yeah.
He did it. He's just like I told you, just very bad with clock management. We saw all those losses the Chargers lost last year. It was a national story in ESPN how we keep losing these games and this and that. Well, a lot of that had to do with coaching, not knowing a timeout, not using timeout so you didn't need them. Throwing the challenge flag when you didn't have to throw the challenge flag. Not going for it on fourth down when we're 2-5. There's nothing. There's nothing to win. There's nothing to lose. Just go for it. The difference with Brandon Staley is the man has heart. He just has balls of steel. And I know the nerds love him because he's doing what the nerds have. And I say nerds in the most positive way.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. He's doing what they ask him, this new era of football, to go for it on fourth down.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only coach that's doing it more than 50% of the time. And it's worked out into 2 wins and it's worked out to a loss. We're 2-1. When it comes to going on fourth down. I mean, we went for it against Baltimore at our own 25. That's just idiotic. But he wants to roll with it. Roll with it.
Well, the players love that too, right?
Yeah. You live and die by your sword, and that's his sword. Is using these new analytics to the highest degree, and it's worked. And so, I love him. I love him. Now, the issue is that he's supposed to be a defensive guru like Sean McVay was, and I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a guy that's fitting the bill, that's a motivational speaker. He's a lot like Marty Schottenheimer without the IQ that I've seen so far. But, this is also a case where he came into a defense that, wasn't good. I mean, we got 2 players, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, like I just said.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, there really isn't anybody else that I can really say, okay, this team is really complete defensively. What can you do? I mean, this guy's coming from the Rams where you had Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. Your job is going to be so much easier when you have those 2 guys on defense. You could do any scheme you want practically with those 2 guys. So, love the coaching. I'm still on the fence with our offensive coordinator and Joe Lombardi. I want to see more. I haven't seen a complete game yet from the Chargers this season where we dominate on all 3 phases, which is offense, defense, and special teams. I haven't seen that yet, and so until I see it, I am I have a lot of trepidation when it comes to the word contender by the Chargers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talk about coaching and that offensive coordinator. I mean, is he just not maybe putting Justin Herbert in the best spot? I mean, to kind of succeed, or could he do a little bit more of that? I know in the coaching with the Bears and Justin Fields, they just talked about trying to use his gifts a little bit better and game plan for that. And then the other thing too with the offensive line, they just weren't running enough plays that were kind of really going to protect him a little bit. And so, like, what else? What else could they do to kind of optimize Justin Herbert?
I think a lot they could do is create more time
Mm-hmm.
by establishing the run a little bit more. I think Lombardi is really quick to go to the passing game as his crutch, because things just doesn't when things don't work out, that's what he's going to go to. That's what he's going to lean on, and I get that. That's the strong side of what Justin Herbert and this offense can do. The problem is that he needs to be more creative with his running, and he needs to be more creative with his passing routes. We need to find more consistency with Mike Williams and in a number 3 receiver, and we got to get Keenan Allen more involved. Keenan Allen got a lot involved yesterday, got over 10 targets. That needs to be like that every week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how this offense flows. Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert connection is what makes this offense open up more. That's why we saw Jared Cook and Pham getting a lot more wide open targets, because the respect has to be given to Keenan Allen, who lines up anywhere on the field offensively. Lombardi will figure it out. I have trust that he will. It's hard to do this with bad right side O-line play. That needs to be addressed. If anything, heading into the next second half of the season, like I said in the beginning of the show, the right side of the O-line needs to be addressed immediately. And they need to find someone who could be a right tackle, because right now, Storm Johnson ain't the answer.
And it's interesting, like with that offensive line, it is so important. And if they can find someone off the street, but sometimes they're on the street for a reason.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with you. There's no one in the free agent market that you can go get. I'm a little mad that they didn't make 2 moves. They didn't make 2 moves with getting Andre Dillard from the Philadelphia Eagles, who wants to get out of Philly. I don't know why they didn't make the move to improve the right tackle situation. Dillard's not playing great, but he's better than Johnson. And I feel more confident having him there than Johnson at right tackle. They didn't find a guard to replace the starter that we had. I can't remember his name right now. And Brandon Cooks was available.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I'm seeing from wide receivers who have been journeymen, Brandon Cooks is on his 4th team. It wouldn't take much for us to get him to put him at the Z position, which is the number 3 spot, and have him cook with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, where that offense would have been extremely formidable against any defense that they would have to go against.
Well, especially if you have the expectations of playoffs and all that. And
Exactly.
so I want to go ahead and play just a game here called the overreaction game. You ready?
Okay.
All right, I just got a couple of overreactions here. I'm going to go ahead and throw them up and on the screen, and I'm going to have you go ahead and just respond, all right?
All right. Sounds good.
Overreaction number 1, Chargers won't make the playoffs.
I disagree.
Okay, tell us why, yeah.
Yeah, Chargers are definitely making the playoffs. The talent I see in the AFC right now, Chargers got a game up on the Browns. They got a game up on some other teams that they played earlier this season. Their schedule is very friendly at the second half. They got Denver twice. They got the Raiders one more time. They had the Chiefs one more time.
And the Chiefs aren't all that scary anymore.
Chiefs aren't that scary anymore. They got Minnesota this week. They got the New York Giants. I mean, these are all wins. They could easily be all wins. We might lose one at Denver, which we always do. And we got the Chiefs coming here because we already beat them at Arrowhead. So, I mean, I feel really confident in being 5-3 right now. I feel really confident in that position. We're tied for first in the AFC West right now, which we have the lead because we beat the Raiders. Thank God the Raiders are just the Raiders.
Right.
And so, yeah. So, we're in first place. We should have won those last two games. We should have won the last week's game against New England. That game hurt me a little bit. But overall, I'm very happy to see where my team's at because the expectations was just be above 500 this year.
Really? Okay.
That was my expectations. I had them pegged at the number 7 seed. I had no idea that the AFC West was going to be this bad. I mean, it's tight, but it's bad. Let's just talk about it. Kansas City's 4-5.
Something's wrong with Mahomes.
Or 5-4.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the Denver Broncos and all these other teams are just the Raiders and all that. They're mediocre teams, and I consider the Chargers just a little bit above them. So that's me being biased, but I think the numbers represent themselves enough as it is when it comes to the Chargers. They shellacked the Raiders already. They beat the Chiefs barely, but that's an Arrowhead when they were still hot.
Right
now, they barely beat a Green Bay team without Aaron Rodgers. So I mean, it's just they barely beat the Giants.
Yeah.
So I mean, I really like the Chargers' chances of taking the AFC West division.
Absolutely. Well, let's one more overreaction here, and here we go. Chargers have the best uniforms in the game.
Oh, hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. The baby powder blue.
Yes, love it.
Oh my man. And the color rush jerseys. The new ones that they made a couple weeks ago.
Are those like a darker blue, or what were the color rush?
They were dude, I don't even know the color. It's like it's a darker. The darker blue ones were the ones away. They had the yellow thunderbolts that go across, and then you have the baby blue, but it's like a darker version of it. It's sick.
I agree. I mean, hands down, I think I did a Twitter poll and about that. And I love the uniforms. You talk about teams, that you just would like to see be successful, be in the Super Bowl. Chargers are definitely one of them. I remember back when they, were against the Niners in that Super Bowl, and obviously you had, Steve Young, I'm not sure how far back you remember, but it was good. 4. Okay, so you're a little bit younger, yeah.
Steve Young, Jerry Rice,
all that, yep. So, but yeah, definitely the best uniforms in the game. So, are you thinking that they're obviously going to be in the playoffs? Are you thinking that they need a home field, a home game in the playoffs?
Well, the unfortunate thing about the Chargers is that there is no home game because they basically went to a CD that didn't want them.
Right.
That's a whole different conversation for a different day that can go on. I'm a San Diego boy. I always love San Diego, but I just, I was raised with the Chargers. And then when they left, my dad, who if he was still alive today, would be turning in his grave knowing that I wasn't rooting for them anymore, even though they moved up to LA. It's just an hour drive, people, 2-hour drive from San Diego. It's not that big of a deal. People took it to the heart, which I understand. I know Dean Spanos is a piece of shit. And so that's the owner by chance that people don't know.
Yeah.
And, he's a piece of crap. I understand why he went up there to double the market share and the market value. Now that we're four or like $2 billion or something like that, compared to what they were worth down here. I get it. I understand. But LA don't want them.
Right.
So they don't have a home crowd. They don't. And it's unfortunate, but like Herbert said a couple weeks ago, you get used to it. And so, it's an advantage if you really think about it, because when you go to these OA places, they're used to a slanted crowd as it is against them. So, the win prediction, I got it. I got them. I got to go through the schedule.
Yeah.
I got to go through the schedule. For me, 5-3.
I-
18 games. So
Yeah, it would with the 17 games this year. I think do they need to be? I mean, you look at it. I mean, second, or third seed, or if they're high up there, I mean, they've got a good shot to get to the Super Bowl, don't they?
oh yeah.
Because yeah,
Super Bowl?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if they get the high seed, yeah, I agree. I mean,
because yeah, I mean,
it's
who
tough.
scares you? I mean, the Ravens. I mean, just with Lamar
Ravens scare
Jackson,
me.
yeah,
Ravens scare me. Our defense can't deal with Lamar Jackson.
right,
We already saw it this year.
yeah.
They scare the crap out of me. The Buffalo Bills scare the crap out of me because they have another quarterback that can run.
But they looked so pedestrian yesterday
They do.
too.
They
So
do.
so
I
that's
agree with you.
so but yeah, I would I think when you have Lamar, you just anything's possible. He's almost
Oh
like
yeah.
what Mahomes had become. Anything's possible. Now Josh Allen's kind of taken a step back, where everything was out yesterday about the other Josh Allen.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I also think it's just one of those games where just it didn't work. Nothing was working. So I'm not going to put it all on Josh Allen and say that he doesn't look like the guy that we saw last year with Stephon Diggs.
right.
I will give you that. He doesn't look like that guy. But we're entering the second half of the season. We'll see if he can turn it up. They still scare me. I mean, their talent alone offensively is scary.
Mm-hmm.
And defensively, once they get going, that defense is special. That defense is good. So Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens are the two biggest teams that scare me the most. And Tennessee Titans. I know Derrick Henry's gone, but they got two beasts at the outside, which is A.J. Brown and Julio Jones.
Well,
and
their
Adrian
defense.
Peterson, yeah, and an emerging upcoming defense. They're ranked 19th. They're ranked 19th in total defense. That's okay. That's all right. They can get a lot better, especially under Mike Vrabel, who's a defensive coordinator for Houston a couple years ago. Watch out. Those three teams, they scare me the most.
Absolutely. Well, one last thing. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Philip Rivers' legacy. He was there for so long. Was it weird seeing him in a Colts jersey?
Yes, but I was happy for him.
Yeah.
I was happy for him because, so I saw Philip Rivers in college. I watched him in college.
NC State, right?
NC State. I was a huge fan of his game. Motion was absolutely bananas, his quarterback mechanics, but it worked. And he was balls to the wall type of leader that the Chargers haven't had ever in the quarterback position since oh my God, Dan Fouts. Since Dan Fouts.
Yeah, that's a long time.
So yeah, and I thought him being on that team with Marty that year in 2006, where he got his first full year after Drew Brees had a surgery in 2004 and then broke his shoulder in 2005. I thought, okay, this is it. This is the team. And, the whole, I can go down the whole rabbit hole with you about the whole Marlon McCree fumble and losing to New England, and we should have beat New England in 2006, and we would have beaten the Bears, and that would have been our Super Bowl. And, ever since then, man, the guy has done more with less.
Yeah.
I understand people are going to be like, he had LaDainian, he had Antonio Gates, but what people forget is those, I call it the mid years. In 2008, all the way to when he was his last year, which was 2019, those years were tough because Gates wasn't the same after 2014. That's when his ankle was obliterated. Like I was shocked that he still played those many years. after he played after that year. Philip Rivers' legacy to me is that he's the greatest Chargers quarterback of all time until we see to the future. Right now, I have him pegged as number one. He's the greatest Charger of all time.
Wow, that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot.
And this is coming from a kid who grew up with him. I understand that people get pissed off, like LaDainian Tomlinson and
Kellen Winslow,
and all that. But that I never seen a guy put the city and team on his shoulders. And the prime example of that, I think you know where I'm going at here with this one. 2008 in an AFC Championship game, played with absolutely no right knee against the New England Patriots, who that year were undefeated. And that was with Randy Moss that year. And we were a touchdown away from beating them with no Sean Merriman, who was the defensive rookie that year, I think. Or no, he was like defensive year candidate. And he played with he had surgery after he left the first half against the Colts. And then Billy Vola came back and led us and won against the Peyton Manning team. And he had surgery on Monday, was able to play on Sunday, literally 6 days later. And his career was on the line. One bad hit.
Yep.
We're talking about, where he probably could never walk again. And he played great. He played great from a guy that had one leg. And ever since then till he retired, I said, you got my respect. I don't care how shitty you play.
Yeah.
You earned my respect, and my respect isn't worth diddly squat, but I'm letting you know. And I met him. I told him that. And amazing man. A true competitor. Played the game right. Number 5, I want to say, in completions.
Wow.
Number 5 in yards. Top 7 in touchdown passes. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? I don't know. It's hard because his postseason numbers are crap. And they weren't good. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Oh,
yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. He's a Hall of Famer. Is he going to get the roses and all, everything that you expect, like Eli Manning is going to get? No, because Eli got 2 MVPs being the New England Patriots. He's a walk-in. No matter what his numbers are, he's a walk-in. He's a first ballot, even though he shouldn't be.
Well, that's what I was going to ask too. I didn't know if Eli was a swear word to Chargers fans.
No, fuck Eli. I can't
as
a player and a person, I had no respect for him.
Right.
You play for who drafts you. If the Chargers wanted you, you play out those 5 years. Well, at that time, you play out whatever contract you signed with.
Contract. Yep.
Okay. Don't pull a John Elway and not want to play. It's BS. It's not fair. It's wrong.
Yep.
And if he doesn't want to play, sit out those 4 years. I can't stand or go back to college. You know who's going to be there. Go back to college. But yeah, Philip Rivers is greatest Charger of all time, in my opinion. And I hope to see him not retire, because if he does come back and play for the Saints or play for somebody else, I'll root for them, because I was rooting hard for him last year with the Colts. I wanted to see him get a chip. I think you and I would agree. If he got one ring, he would be the best in his class, and that's him, Eli, and Big Ben. And I think he's better than both of them.
Yeah, I definitely Big Ben has benefited from defenses and of all that. Yeah. And he was definitely one that you wanted to root for, and I'm a big Marty Schottenheimer fan. I wanted to see him do well.
Likewise.
But we could probably talk all night about football. I definitely have appreciated you coming on. And so where can everyone find you then?
Hey, man, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. I love talking about football, usually with my guys, and we're always talking about different teams. We never talk about my team. You can find us on the Sports Box Network. We are on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Our podcasts are also on Apple and Spotify. You also could get us on Game Winning Drive. We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page, we have a Twitter page, and just link up us. Our episodes are on every Wednesday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time, and we do our weekly picks and we go through what's going on around the NFL. And we have a big show actually coming up tomorrow, this Wednesday. It's our half season recap award show. So if you want to check it out, we will be going live on Twitter and on Facebook and on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
Definitely going to check that out. So, once again, I appreciate you coming on, and this has been NFL Outdated Cover 2 series on the Chargers, and hopefully with those powder blue uniforms, we have a positive ending to the season.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me on, and give NFL Outdated a look and a like, man. I'm appreciative, Dan. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again.